He's a Theo. He's awesome. What's up, Theolets? Welcome to another analysis. This time, we're analyzing Act 1, Scene 4 of Twelfth Night. But before I can get into it, remember, if you haven't watched my previous videos, go watch them right now, because they tell you how the format of this show is gonna work. Now, if you're looking for my videos, you're like, well, where do I find it? Find it on the 12th Night playlist in my YouTube channel. Now, without further ado, here are the thought-provoking questions for Scene 4 of Act 1 of 12th Night. All right, let's get into the thought-provoking questions. Wait, just me, or do I hear a call? Yeah, that's definitely a phone call. Guys, I need to get this. Hold on, just give me 5 seconds. Hello? Oh, it's William Shakespeare calling. Yes. He wants me to tell you something. Yes. Okay. Wow. That's some deep advice, man. Very profound. All right. Yeah. See you soon. Ciao. So William Shakespeare just told me to tell you this. And he said it really loudly, so I think my ears are almost hurting, but he said this. Read the book. Read the book. Read the book. Yeah, he literally said those words, and then he kept on repeating them over and over and over again. So what that means is do not watch any of my Thielen analysis if you haven't read that section of the book, that scene. And remember, if you're watching this video, you should have read not just scene 4, but scene 1, 2, and 3. All the scenes before the scene that I'm reading, and the scene that I'm reading. That's what you need to read it. That's what Shakespeare said, so Shakespeare must be right. I'm not using appeal to authority fallacy. Let's get into the thought-provoking question before you start asking me some questions. Number 1, how does Valentine feel about Cesario's connection with the Duke of Illyria? Number 2, how does Shakespeare change his style of writing compared to the previous scene? Scene 3. Number 3, what does Cesario's response to Valentine suggest about Cesario's character? Number 4, how is Orsino's obsession with love further illustrated in this scene through his discourse with Cesario? Number 5, why does Orsino believe that Lady Olivia will rather listen to someone who's youthful than someone who's older and of a graver aspect? Number 6, why is Cesario unsure of what Olivia, or not what Olivia, but what Orsino tells him? In lines 26 to 30. It's good that you guys clarified that for me. Number 7, why does Orsino, or what does Orsino seem to want besides love, as seen through his conversations with Cesario? Number 8, how does Shakespeare employ dramatic irony in this scene? Number 9, how is Orsino's character in scene 4 contradicting his character in scene 1? And number 10, what is the significance of the last line in this scene? Let's start analyzing, Violets. Cesario found now no less but all life unclasped to thee the book even of my secret soul. Lines 23 to 26. This is page 23 analysis, and if you open your pages to that page 23, you will see that phrase. And what does that mean? What is Orsino trying to say? Well, he's trying to say that Cesario knows so much about him. He has such a good depth to him. And what's interesting is that why does he have such a good depth? Well, before we can talk about that, we need to talk about dramatic irony. You see, in the introduction, we see that Viola confides to the audience that she loves Orsino herself. Now, that creates a little bit of a conflict. If Viola loves Orsino and Orsino loves Olivia, then how can that work if Viola is a man? Whoa. Because men cannot love men in this society. So it's interesting. And that will employ for the dramatic irony of how Orsino thinks that he loves Viola, or he might love Viola, but he doesn't really because, well, Viola's a man. But before we can get into all that, let's talk about Valentine. Valentine is a character who doesn't talk that much in iambic pentameter. But Valentine talks as a poor person would talk during that time. Someone who is of a low social class or just a servant class. While Viola and Orsino talk in iambic pentameter. But to understand Valentine's character, we must understand how does Valentine feel about Cesario's connection with the Duke of Illyria. And Valentine does not feel at all good, or at least Viola observes that. Now, I will be always referencing Cesario as Viola because that's how Shakespeare references it in his plays, even though Viola changes to Cesario. Viola is still referred to as Viola, and therefore I will still call her Viola, and I'll be referring to her as a her, not as a him, just to make that clear, okay? So Valentine considers that Viola is likely to be advanced, and he hath known you but 3 days, and already you are no stranger. But you see, Viola detects that Valentine has some anger for her, and that's why Viola says, you either fear his humor or my negligence, essentially meaning that Valentine probably either believes that Orsino is impulsive and has only made this decision due to his impulsiveness, or that Viola cannot serve him well. You see, Valentine has been serving Orsino for so long, and therefore Valentine has every right to be confused of why can Viola be at such a high position only to have it served for 3 days. You see, Viola is very observant in other people's arguments and can get the implied meaning out of an explicit meaning. This observance is also indicated through her conversations with the captain back, in scene 2, when she was realizing, oh, maybe there's some inner corruption behind this guy that we don't know yet. Essentially, she knows a lot about characters, and she wants to dodge that bullet before waiting longer and longer to be confronted. She confronts the person about it before they can confront her. That's Viola's character. Head, front, just going directly into what needs to be talked about. You see, by doing that, Valentine's whole argument is shut off. She says, is he incontinent in his favors? Valentine says, no, believe me. Viola says, I thank you. Essentially meaning, well, if he was incontinent in his favors, then this would be just something due to impulsiveness. It'd be a temporary thing. But if he's continent in his favors, that means that they have a true connection. She's just trying to show that she has enough trust for Orsino and that people should trust her. And because she's not trying to play him, she's not being manipulative, but really they have a true connection. And those favors are indicative of that true connection. Now, Viola transforms into Cesario. We have to talk about this transformation. This is a female to a male transformation, and it's a complete contrast from Viola's old character. This whole no stranger thing to being someone who's really important is also indicative of how fast-paced this novel is. You see, at first, Viola is a stranger, then she's one of Cesario's, or not Cesario, but Orsino's best friend. This huge transformation indicates that Viola knows her way around human beings, and that Viola can probably get what she wants. Now, perhaps this also indicates some connection deeper than just a friend connection, perhaps indicating that Orsino really does love Viola. But he's not going to say that, of course, because Viola is a man, or at least that's how it seems. Continuing on, Orsino says, who saw Cesario? And Orsino says how Cesario has, quote unquote, unclasped to see the book even of my secret soul. By using his soul as a metaphor, as a book, this indicates that Viola is someone who's like reading it and just understanding every little bit about him. This only further makes Viola as a character of someone who's really observant and who understands a lot about somebody's life. Now, continuing on, why do you think Orsino refers to Viola as youth? You see, I think that Orsino wants youth. Besides love, he wants to be young again. He wants to live the happy years. But of course, he can't. And therefore, he finds his own life through Viola or Cesario. He finds that this is a reflection of who he once was. Or, in theory, that's true. Now, how does Shakespeare change his style of writing from scene 3 to scene 4? Well, scene 3 employs a lot of puns, and a lot of puns indicates more of this joking atmosphere. And the huge contrast that Shakespeare makes is a joking world versus a world of iambic pentameter and drama and tragedy. You see, whenever we talk with Valentine, Viola, and Orsino and Cesario, that's one language world of tragedy, of the true love. While in another language world of Toby and Sir Andrew, they are all about comedy, puns, being witty. And Lady Olivia is considered an intersection of those places, crossroads, because Lady Olivia knows Sir Toby Belch, but she's also connected to Valentine and Viola, being, well, Orsino loves Olivia. So this is kind of the merging of those two worlds. Luckily, we don't actually see Lady Olivia until much into the future, so we can't talk about this right now. And therefore, I can make this analysis video much shorter than it need be. Now, what Orsino is, we can characterize him as someone who's very bold and willing to take lots and lots of risks. He is obsessed with love, and the reason why he's obsessed with love is because he probably doesn't have it. And he just needs love, and this can be seen through his conversation with Viola. You see, he says to Viola, "Be not denied access, stand at her doors and tell them, there thy fixed foot shall grow till thou have audience." Essentially, do not ever leave. I want to show to Lady Olivia that I have passion and dedication for her. I mean, I'm not going to come there myself, but I will send a messenger, and that messenger will show my passion and my dedication. And his reasoning for this is mostly that because Viola is seen as a young person, and perhaps because Orsino is a little bit of a coward himself. But that's also because of a nobility sort of thing. People used to send messengers for love. That used to be a huge love thing. Oh, we need to send messengers. Because the only way we are going to meet if there's a marriage between us. That's the first time we meet. Kind of like marriage at the first sight. They see each other, they get married. That's how it kind of used to be with the nobility. There wasn't actual dating involved. It was just sending a messenger over to woo her. And as we continue on, this boldness and this recklessness is indicating that Orsino is not reasonable at all. There was 3 organs that Orsino referenced in scene 1. He references the heart, the liver, and the brain. And of course, he might have a lot of the heart, of feeling, of liver, but he lacks the brain. He doesn't have any reason. He's very impulsive. Remember, he knows someone for only 3 days and they're already their best friend. And he's willing to do whatever it takes for Lady Olivia. Just indicating that Orsino does not know one bit of thing of love. He can read about love all he wants, but he doesn't actually apply that knowledge to himself. Because if he were to apply that knowledge, we would all see that Orsino is definitely not one to love. He's just one to be infatuated or obsessed with love. Now, Cesario's response to Valentine, what does that suggest about Cesario's character? I told you, very, very observant and very willing, just very defensive, does not want to let things be against her. Now, Viola agrees, "Sure, my noble lord," and probably the reason why she agrees is because if she can do what the Lord tells her to, then, well, you see, her social status won't be revealed to the rest of the world. This is kind of her place for hiding. Remember, reference to scene 2, she wants her social status to be left uncovered, and therefore she is disguised as someone. And if she can enhance her position here, then she can prosper in the society that she is. And she will most likely be advanced, as Valentine has pointed out. But Orsino not only talks about this, he talks about a lot more. Not only does he want her to stand at the doors, he wants to go to an impulse, to a passion, so dear, so tender, that, quite honestly, we can characterize Orsino as the crazy lad. Diana's lip is not more smooth and rubious, thy small pipe is as the maiden's organ, shrill and sound, and all is semblative of a woman's part. Orsino says this in lines 35 or 37. Or not 35 to 37, 34 to 37. But I was close enough. Now, what does the Orsino mean? He's trying to say that Viola is a perfect person for this job because of her youth. And this feeling of how a youth is better than someone's older indicates something about Orsino. He himself is a little bit doubting that he can get her at the age that he's at. He wishes he was younger, as I responded before. But what exactly does this mean? It also means that he has taken a liking to Viola. Perhaps he finds her that perfect youth, the person of beauty, of course. Is he allowed to do this? Now, before I can go into that, where do we see Orsino's recklessness? We see it right here. He says, be clamorous and leap all civil bounds rather than make unprofited return. You see, he's not necessarily the perfect noble duke. And that's the funny part, is the captain said Orsino is noble. And if I can find that line, then I will say that. But if I can't find it, then I will not. Oh, here's what he says. Captain says, a noble duke in nature as a name. But funnily enough, Orsino's not really a noble person. Or at least when he's obsessed with love, he isn't. Because he doesn't know how to think rationally. Love has overcome him and his desires ever since pursue him, like the hounds do with the heart. Because he's willing to leap all civil bounds. And that means he's going to become rude. And during this time, becoming rude was a huge thing not accepted. You see, social structure in England dictated that you had to be polite and kind and nice, but he's willing to go against this just because of his obsession with love. But how do we see dramatic irony in these lines? Well, we see dramatic irony because Orsino thinks of Lady Viola, of Viola as someone who is semblative of a woman's part. Yet she is a woman. You see, we as the audience know she's a woman, but he doesn't. He thinks she's a man, and therefore he finds it rather curious or interesting that she looks so much like a woman. Of course, she is the woman. That's the dramatic irony. If it was a woman, well then, there's no point of him being the messenger. But since she's not, then there is. Just indicating of the gender roles at the time. Who needs to be a wooer and who cannot be a wooer. Now, when Orsino says, oh, then unfold the passion of my love, surprise her with discourse of my dear faith, it shall become thee well to act my woes. She will attend it better in thy youth than in Annuncio's of more grave aspect. What that means is that Orsino wants her to be overcome with his love. Basically, he wants for Viola to be that Cupid, firing the golden shaft, forcing her to fall in love. I don't think Orsino can accept that idea that Olivia doesn't love him, because he says so much about unfold the passion of my love, surprise her. Surprise means to overcome and to capture. Capture is a military term, meaning take, and take. Do not let her speak for herself unless she can love. You see, he's so willing. He so needs to have that love that it's a bit sad because he can't accept that other idea. And this is probably because of the social status that he has at the time, which makes us wonder, what if Viola, or not Viola, what if Olivia says no? Will Orsino demote Viola simply because Viola could not have made Olivia be wooed by Orsino? After all, she is supposed to be clamorous and leave all civil bounds rather than make unprofited return. Essentially, there is no chance that she can be unsuccessful. This is a difficult situation for Viola to be in. And this is where Viola's persuasive techniques are going to come in handy. But of course, should she use her persuasive techniques? Because she loves Orsino. And if she can persuade Olivia to love Orsino, well then it's not working for her. So essentially, it's a win-loss no matter what. Either I can somehow get Orsino to win my love, but I'll be demoted and therefore it probably won't work. Or I can become better in Orsino's eyes, but then I don't get what I want. And I have to see Olivia and Orsino together, and I don't want that. Viola loses either way, and this is definitely very sad to be in. I would not want to be her. But what does this mean? Diana's lip is not more smooth than Rubia's thigh small pipe. Why do you think that Orsino wants to be the youth? Why do you think there shouldn't be someone of a more serious face? Well, perhaps it's because Orsino believes he wants to portray his love as something that's light and kind. And he wants to be someone saying, I want this to be like a frivolous pleasure. You see, he doesn't want love to be something that's so serious. He wants Lady Olivia to know that he is relaxed, calm. And if it's more serious or more old, then he doesn't think that Lady Olivia will find him worthy enough. Essentially, he's trying to be worthy enough for her. And the only way to do that is to send a messenger that depicts who Orsino is. Orsino is someone who's young, even though he's probably very old. The young in the old. But what does this mean? For they shall yet belie thy happy years. You see, happy years are young years. When you are young, and essentially by saying they shall yet misrepresent thy happy years. You see, perhaps he's trying to refer to Lady Olivia will misrepresent those happy years as indicative of Orsino's love. Because if it's not happy years, if it's sad years, well then those sad years will try to depict Orsino as someone who is not happy, and therefore why should I be with someone who's not happy and who cannot ensure me happiness? But if I have someone who's young, a young messenger, well that will depict who Orsino is. You see, the messenger is symbolic of the person behind the messenger, or at least that's what Orsino believes. Orsino does not really realize not everything is all in the symbolism. You can't have someone else cover for who you are. Your cover will always see you. And now we end with Viola saying, I'll do my best to woo your lady, yet a barful strife. It will be very hard to woo his lady. And why do you think it will be hard? Well, because Olivia does not want to see any man for 7 years. That's what the captain tells her. And now this is what Viola realizes. This is a difficulty. How can someone who won't see any man for 7 years all of a sudden be taken by any man? There is just no possibility. And Viola makes a little joke at the end that I want to get into, but I won't get into it right now. I want to talk about what Orsino thinks. He says, I know thy constellation is right apt for this affair. The stars that govern your success. Essentially, he's kind of pretending that he's a god. It's like, Everything will be good if you follow what I do. He's very self-centered and narcissistic. He thinks if people satisfy him, then the good things will come in return. You see, karma usually goes, if you're good to God, God will be good to you. Here it's, if you're good to Orsino, life will be good to you. That's an interesting thing. It just indicates how self-centered he is, but it also indicates the power he has. You see, he has the power to give so much money to Viola, and therefore, he's most likely to advance her if Viola can convince him that Lady Olivia loves Orsino. Just indicative of how bribery is everything. Money can change us. And the thing is, if Lady Olivia knows that this is all for money, well then, she might not love Orsino. That's the difficulty part, is that the only true love is one not shaped by money, because money causes greediness, and it causes for fake love to occur. And this is what that book is about. It's all about fake love. Viola says, whoever I woo, myself would be his wife. That's a joke. You see, Viola is actually a female, and therefore she's saying how if she were to really woo someone, she would be the wife. She would woo a man, not a woman. Yet, she's not allowed to. And that's that kind of joke that she makes when she steps aside when Orsino's here. He's like, oh, I won't woo her, really. I'll pretend to woo her, but there's no reason I would woo her because I'm a woman. The only person I would woo is a man. Perhaps meaning that she won't try her hardest to woo Lady Olivia, and that Viola will make some sort of persuasive tactic to get Orsino to love her. It's time for our dictionary segment. Whimsical means playfully quaint or fanciful, acting in or behaving in a capricious manner. Capricious is something that means given to sudden and unaccountable changes to mood or behavior. Meaning, what does that mean? It means that Orsino is a whimsical person, someone who's impulsive. Small changes in mood or behavior could change him. That's essentially what Viola's saying. She's saying that Valentine believes that this is all because of a sudden change in mood. But if he gives so many favors, then why would that be the case? That's essentially the wrong part of the argument. Ho means no, not that type of ho. It means to call attention. That was used during older times. It was used as a show of call for attention. Ho there, come here, come here, come there. So if you're wondering what that means, it means to come. Now, gait is a manner of walking. That was used when it was saying, speed up your gait. It was talking about the walking of someone. And that means to go there. Gait is to walk, so to go. Fixed means to be fastened securely in position. What that is supposed to indicate is their thigh fixed foot shall grow. Essentially, stand there and don't move and let them come to you. You need to have an audience. You need to make them angry so that Lady Olivia will see how much I care about her. Woes is misery. Why does he want her to confess the misery? Well, you should act upon your misery because, well, if he indicates how miserable he is without her, he believes that Lady Olivia will suddenly feel, oh gosh, I have to make him happy because Orsino is the center of everything. Fidelity means faithfulness to a person or sexual faithfulness to a spouse or partner. What that means, of my dear faith, indicates I will not love anyone else except you, Lady Olivia. Of course, is that really true? Perhaps not, because he seems that he might love Viola if Viola was a woman. Page just means someone who does errands, so Viola does errands for Lady Olivia. Interestingly enough, she was going to be a eunuch, but, well, I don't think there was any slots available for eunuchs, so now she does errands. Perhaps being a eunuch is part of those errands, but I guess she just had to settle with that. And last but not least, apt is appropriate or suitable in the circumstance. They use apt a lot in this play. And what it means in this is, I know thigh constellation is right. Apt means it's appropriate, it's suitable. I know that it's suitable for the stars that govern your success, for them to shape you. It is suitable for this thing to happen. This is meant to happen. Oh, and I almost forgot, strife is angry or bitter disagreement, meaning there's going to be a lot of conflict. Even though Orsino might believe that everything will be amazing, Viola knows there's going to be a lot of conflict. Viola is observant and intelligent. Let's remember to comment down below if you have any questions about scene 4 of Act 1. And as always, thanks for reading. Time for my additional notes segment, where anything that I didn't say in my previous stuff, I say it right here. So there's one specific quotation that I didn't analyze, and I want to analyze it right now here in the additional notes segment. Well, this is what Orsino says, mark my words. He says this in around lines 40 to 41. And he says exactly this. All, if you will, for I myself am best when least in company. Now, Orsino's character contradicts itself from scene 1, because in scene 1, he talks about being that one self king, being the person with someone else. He yearns for that connection. He yearns to be with that second person, being the king and having her as the queen, or having her as, I don't know, the person married to the king. Just someone who he wants to be, that person who can satisfy another person. But here he says that he wants to be alone. That's really interesting, because it indicates that Orsino doesn't really like being with another person. He just wants to be alone, thinking about that person. But when it comes to actually being with that person, no. He, in fact, is just always meant to be a bachelor who has thoughts about not being a bachelor, but never really committing to it.